West Denver. Sleep deprived and heavily caffeinated.
All right, let's do this then.
This is the Jeff and Bill Show.
I don't understand what's
agree with that.
They don't always agree, but hey, at least they have coffee.
Coffee.
And each other.
I love you, man.
God help us.
I want to bless him. We need all the help we can get.
Now here's Jeff Hunt and Bill Thorpe. The Jeff and Bill Show on News Talk 710 KNUS.
It's 8 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Friday, June 13th, 2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show. News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, and center. We're going to continue our conversation on Iran and Israel. If you missed the news, Israel launched a significant military operation targeting Iran's nuclear facilities, 200 fighter jets, 330 munitions on over 100 targets, a big escalation dubbed Operation Rising Lion. Joining us here in just a few minutes, Joshua Sharf, senior fellow at the Independence Institute, one of our go-tos on all things Israel and Jewish. He's going to give us updates on what's happening in Israel, how people are responding, how Iran may react to all this, and where's it all going to go? We're going to talk to Joshua. You're not going to want to miss this conversation. Now it's time for News and Comment with Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, News and Comment.
Good morning, TGIF. 63 and sunny in Denver, expecting a high of 88 today. The 710 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story.
Now, as Prime Minister, I've made it clear time and again, Israel will never allow those who call for our annihilation to develop the means to achieve that goal. Tonight, Israel backs those words with action. We struck at the heart of Iran's nuclear enrichment program. We struck at the heart of Iran's nuclear weaponization program.
Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, 47, warning Iran to agree to a nuclear deal before Israel unleashes something even more brutal upon them. Posting on Truth Social after Israel launched strikes against Iranian military and nuclear sites last night, Trump said the time for Tehran to act is now before there is nothing left. In an hour, DJT will be meeting with his National Security Council to discuss Israel's military strike. In Netanyahu's 7-minute address, he had some words for the people of Iran.
Our actions against Iran's proxy Hezbollah led to the establishment of a new government in Lebanon and the collapse of Assad's murderous regime in Syria. The peoples of those two countries now have a chance for a different future, a better future. So too do the brave people of Iran, and I have a message for them. Our fight is not with you. Our fight is with the brutal dictatorship that has oppressed you for 46 years. I believe that the day of your liberation is near, and when that happens, the great friendship between our two ancient peoples will flourish once again.
Denver police say they are aware and prepared for the No Kings protest scheduled for tomorrow, once again from noon to 4 at the Capitol. Hundreds of Marines are awaiting deployment to the streets of L.A. The Marines have been mobilized to protect federal buildings and officials. They could be working alongside the thousands of National Guard members already deployed in the city. A federal appeals court is allowing 47 to keep control of California's National Guard. This after a federal judge on Thursday issued a ruling that halted the administration's deployment of military troops in L.A. They said he didn't have the authority to nationalize California's National Guard. Trump said, "Thank you for the decision."
If this is how the Department of Homeland Security responds to a senator with a question, you can only imagine what they're doing to farm workers, to cooks, to day laborers out in the Los Angeles community and throughout California and throughout the country.
That's California Democratic Senator Alex Padilla, who nobody knew until Thursday after he crashed a Kristi Noem press conference. He created a potentially dangerous situation, interrupts her after storming into the room, pushing back against the detail, creating the theater and the drama. He was cuffed in the hallway outside and then released so he could have a 15-minute meeting with Noem afterwards. She said he would have met with him before if he just would have asked her. I'm sure he raised plenty of money after that act, and that is why he did it. Sometimes I love her, sometimes I don't. Yesterday I loved her. Great question from Nancy Mace from South Carolina to Tampon Tim.
What is a woman? What is a woman is the question.
I'm not sure I understand the question here.
Well, that.
What do you want me to say? This is.
I want you to say that a woman like me is an adult human female, that men can't become women. You guys are the party of violence, and you're the party erasing women. You don't respect us. You're a bigot. You're a misogynist. You're a sexist.
Yes. What'd you think, Jeff?
It's so amazing to me that they still can't answer this question. We did a whole documentary exposing that the left can't answer this simple question of what is a woman.
So stupid.
What do you want me to say? That guy was almost the vice president of the United States.
Whack. Yeah, just frightening. Unbelievable. 5 people have died after floods in San Antonio. And the lone survivor in that Indian plane crash is a 40-year-old man. It killed 241 people in that flight in India once again. He survived it and walked away. I still can't believe it. I mean, the video is amazing. J.J. Spawn leads going into the second round of the U.S. Open at 4 under, shot a 66 in round 1. NHL Stanley Cup Finals, Edmonton comes back after being down 3-0 in the first. They tie it at 3 in the second. Then they take a 4-3 lead in the third. But guess what? Florida ties it at 4 with 19 seconds to play. It goes to overtime.
Bouchard with it for the Oilers. Now Ekholm. Bart calls it. Cross-ice pass. Draisaitl towards the net. Score! Leon Draisaitl in overtime. The Edmonton Oilers tie the series 2 games apiece.
Now, Game 5 tomorrow. 62 in Westminster, 61 in Littleton, 63 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Warm summer-like days and mild summer-like nights as we head on through the rest of the week and head into the weekend here in northern Colorado. Denver, the Front Range, will see highs in the 80s today and Friday with afternoon and evening scattered showers and thunderstorms. Overnight lows mid to upper 50s. Bit warmer for the weekend, upper 80s into the 90s. Lows mid to upper 50s, and the weekend will bring a continued chance of hit or miss late day scattered showers and storms. Weather sponsored by Colorado's Best Roofing, reminding you to protect your home from the harsh Colorado weather and schedule your free, no obligation roof inspection today at roofingcolorado.com. That's roofingcolorado.com. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
We're going to be joined here by Joshua Sharf in just a second. Let's talk Dan Caplis and Dan Caplis Law. Guys, you get injured. I may have even myself
like someone
put
comes
in
up and
a
kicks you in the back
call
or something.
to
I
Mr.
don't know.
Caplis.
Yeah.
But you get injured in a vehicle crash, something like that. You need somebody that has experience. Dan Caplis, 40 years of getting people justice in the state of Colorado. Nobody has a reputation like Dan Caplis because he has delivered time and time again. The son of a police officer, a former seminarian. You're going with a trusted entity with Dan Caplis. Dan is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado state history. Dan Kaplis Law, so trusted. He's the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. Dan Kaplis Law, serious firm for serious cases. Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. So if you need Dan's help, give him a call. Here's the phone number, 303-770-5551, or hit dankapleslaw.com. That's 303-770-5551, or dankapleslaw.com. All right. Always love to have Joshua Sharf on the show. He's a senior fellow at the Independence Institute, a devoted man of faith to his Jewish faith, visitor to Israel, connections there, can give us insight onto what's happening over there right now. Joshua, brother, thank you for taking time to join the Jeff and Bill Show.
Yes, thank you so much.
Well, thank you for inviting me on. This is I'm just sorry Jimmy Carter isn't around to see this. That's just
yeah, it's hard.
So I imagine your phone blows up in the sense of not a pager blow up,
no,
but starts to go off with news that Israel has now taken the initiative, is attacking Iran. Give us your thoughts.
Well, what's stunning is the inability of Iran immediately. Now, this may happen over time, but everybody expected an immediate missile and rocket response. And so far, they've managed to lob about or put in about 100 drones. The Israelis are saying that they have intercepted. They and the Jordanians have intercepted all of them. So at this point, there's no incoming. You know, there's an app that I have on my phone that I have linked up that gives me, the alerts when there's incoming. And, obviously it's like an incoming to Denver, so I look at it and I, say, well, that's not good. And it's usually been the Houthis lobbing a missile at, 3 a.m. Israel time. And there was nothing. And to me, that's striking. I think it's striking to the Israelis as well that this was the advanced planning that this took for years. Really, the advanced planning that this took was so overwhelmingly successful at the moment. Now, there's always, everybody's got tricks up their sleeve. So let's not get complacent. But just the overwhelming first day success of this. Is something that I think we can. This will be studied for as long as the pager attack was studied from an intelligence point of view. This is just it's really overwhelming.
I mean, I've got to tell you, Joshua, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think I've ever seen Israel stronger than they are right now with their enemies and confronting their enemies. I mean, you have Hezbollah on their heels, you have Hamas on their heels. Now, direct attacks at the heart of Iran and their nuclear capabilities. The Middle East responds to strength. I'm not sure I've ever seen Israel as strong as they are right now. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it has, again, you don't want to assume anything, but it kind of has that feel of this is what it must have been like in 1967. for those of us who are not, who were 1 year old, not even that in 67. We hear the stories and we read the books, but to have that feeling that there's, that they've been able over this past period of time. You're right. They've hit the proxies. You'll notice there was no response from Hezbollah either. Hamas didn't even bother to launch rockets. The Houthis have not, may get back to their one a day, iron, but other than that, there's been no response from the Iranian proxies, and so what you saw really was, and again, understand, some of what they had to do from a position of understanding that they were attacking a much larger country, both in terms of it's a war. This is not an operation. As the IDF has said, they're going to war. They're not just. This is not a 1 or 2 day operation, and they have managed, understanding that that's a bigger country in terms of population, in terms of area, in terms of sites that have to be covered. in terms of potential responses. Now, remember, some of this got set up back last year when Israel went in and hit a bunch of the Iranian air defenses. So there was that back and forth between Iran and Israel. And one of the things that Israel did, and observers with a better eye for this than I have, pointed out that they had basically created lanes that they could use in the Iranian air defenses if they wanted to go in again. And that's what they did. So the Iranian air defenses were perhaps rebuilt somewhat, but they didn't work any better this time than they did last time. And they also, and this is what the astonishing part. This is the equivalent of the pager response, right, or a pager attack. They built bases inside. Mossad built bases inside Iran. I mean, it's largely a desert, unpopulated. Plenty of places where you can do this inside Iran, where they were able to put drones or put even missiles. I guess they had even missiles, or primarily drones, that they could then use to decapitate the Iranian response before it got off the ground. I think everyone was expecting, as soon as the first strikes happened, the Iranians had these missiles lined up and ready to go, and the Israelis hit those first, and they hit them from inside Iran, which means that they had built up these bases. They had other drones on trucks, sort of using the Zelensky class truck carriers, I suppose. And they managed to decapitate not only the leadership, but also this response, which was basically on autopilot. And so you push a button and all this is going to go. And they managed to, I mean, it's not quite that simple, but, you get the command. It was all lined up and the operational stuff was ready to go. And they managed to prevent the worst of that. So really, it's everything they could have hoped for.
I mean, that's just amazing to me that the bases are operationally there inside of Iran, put together by Israel to attack. Man, it is, it almost takes my breath away to think about how they are how Mossad and Israel's thinking this far ahead, and Iran and these Islamists can hardly string anything together at this point. I mean, this is an amazing moment in Middle Eastern history. Now, Joshua Sharf, Senior Fellow, Independence Institute, joining us. I think Americans are naturally worried about getting pulled into another Iraq, another Afghanistan boondoggle where we spend billions of dollars and shed the blood of our sons and daughters. And Afghanistan is, just as bad as it was prior with Taliban rule and the problems it has there. So they're a little worried of getting entangled into the Middle East and regime change again. Is it the same thing with Iran? Are we going to get into a years-long conflict and billions of dollars trying to bring about regime change? Or do you think the Iranian people would like to see the mullahs gone?
Oh, I think it's clear the Iranian people would like to see the mullahs gone. Now, whether and they've made that clear over time, but you have an effective internal intelligence or internal secret police operation, you can suppress a lot of that stuff. But there was an instance a few months ago where somebody walked up to a bunch of the Iranian Supreme Court members and shot 3 of them and killed them. And this was so you don't do that. That's a pretty serious thing to do. And there's a great deal of discontent with that regime. I don't think Israel wants, and I know the U.S. does. I know we don't want to go in and try to occupy Iran, whatever that would mean. It's not a doable thing short of a complete national mobilization that we would see in sort of a World War II type situation. That's just not going to happen. And I think the intent is, first of all, you'll notice that Israel is hitting only military targets. They could have hit the oil fields. There are plenty of soft economic targets that they could have hit, and they didn't hit any of them. The goal here is really to attack the regime and to attack the military and to weaken it and scramble it. And I think that's for two purposes. Number one, of course, it's part of war fighting. But number two, if you have a regime that is based on internal military repression, perhaps you give the people then the courage to go ahead and rise up and replace it. And I think that's the intent as well. I mean, Netanyahu in his speech, in essence, said, the moment of your liberation is at hand. That's not an exact quote, but it's pretty close. And I think the intent here is, here's your opportunity. We're going to take out as many of these guys and as much of this hardware. We're going to keep ourselves safe, and in the process, we're going to give you an opportunity to, I say we now speaking as him, not as an American, obviously. We're going to give you an opportunity to finish the job and free yourselves from these monsters.
You think they will?
And I think they would love to see it. I don't know. I would love to see the thing that I don't know that you have the same level of street level organization that Khomeini did when he was able to overthrow the Shah. And I don't know if you have a coherent leadership, a coherent street level organization that's capable of moving in and forcing the mullahs out. But you might. I mean, it's possible that there's stuff going on there that we don't know about. That there's a lot of sense that the natural guy to come in and take over is the Shah's son, sort of replace him, and he seems to be a different character from his father in a lot of ways. And that's a possibility. So could the Iranian people rally around? Is there enough nostalgia for what was, after all, the Shah was not a great guy, but what was, after all, a more prosperous, more peaceful time in Iran's history? Is there enough nostalgia to put his son back on the throne, or make him president? If they want to keep it as a republic, make him president or something. I don't know. It's possible, but I think that's really that's the ideal situation. That's what happens if everything goes the way that we want it to go. At a minimum, you just wreck Iran militarily to the point where it can neither fund or operate its proxies, such as they still are, or pose a threat. So that's the immediate goal.
That's Joshua Sharf, Senior Fellow, Independence Institute. We're talking Iran, Israel, and the attacks that took place yesterday. Israel hitting a number of nuclear, high-profile military targets inside Iran. 200 aircraft used, over 300 munitions, hitting over 100 targets. This was a big one. Now, one of the questions we were discussing during the last hour, and I want to get your take on this, is how some of the other countries, like Saudi Arabia, may respond. Bill, you have a statement that Saudi Arabia
released a statement yesterday. It said the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia expresses its strong condemnation and denunciation of the blatant Israeli aggression against the brotherly Islamic Republic of Iran, which undermines its sovereignty and security and constitute a clear violation of international laws and norms.
Yeah, so the tip off there is the brotherly, calling them brotherly. Iran, if you remember, at one point, this is back in the early '80s, I believe. Basically, he's tried to stage a takeover in Mecca, and so this is not. They're not exactly. They're not all that brotherly. So I think this is one of those things that they put out and they. And then they go back and if the Saudi leadership drinks champagne, which they may in private, then I think they're having a little toast right now.
Now, what does it do as far as the idea of inside of the Muslim world? Because you always want to protect, you fight with your brothers, but if someone comes in and starts to fight the family, that conflict between the brothers falls apart. In this conflict, while Saudi Arabia is very friendly with the U.S. and Israel as well, in this conflict, does that shared faith make them side more prominently possibly with Iran in this point? or if they end up taking the side of Israel and possibly the United States if we get involved, does that make them stand outside? I mean, I'm worried about that idea. When they do use brotherly, I believe you're right that it is tongue-in-cheek, but there also is an underpinning shared faith there. How strong is that, and does that mean would Saudi Arabia let Iran still be attacked or even go as far as to support Israel or the U.S., or especially if the U.S. jumps in and starts assisting with Israel's regime change, does that become a step too far for Saudi Arabia? Does Saudi Arabia have to pick up arms or do something simply because of that shared faith?
Well, I don't think so, and I don't think Saudi's really in a position to do much anyway in those circumstances. No, I don't think Saudi gets directly involved. I think their sincere hope is that their sincere feelings anyway are that this is a good thing for them and for the region, and that they can't say that publicly, but that's what they believe. And I think that that in terms of what they would like to see happen, at a minimum, like I say, they want to see Iran, which has continued to pose a threat to them, Iran defanged, and I don't think they would particularly mind seeing, like I say, a more reasonable regime put out there. Although, again, Israel is not in a position to put anyone in power there. What they're in a position to do is create the circumstances where the Iranian people can rise up and take their country back. That's what Israel can do. They can't. They're not in a position where they can, mount a land force operation to put someone on in power there.
But so, could this be possibly now, Joshua Sharf, fellow at the Independent Institute? Could this possibly be viewed as either the Western world or the Zionists attacking the faith? And what I mean by that is, if we go back to September 11th, while Iran is Shia, the attackers were all Sunni, and many of them outside of Saudi Arabia, that if this is viewed in the lens, if Iran is able to create inside of the Islamic world the filter of the Zionists coming after the faith, does that change your equation on whether or not some of the other Middle Eastern states get involved in a potential conflict?
Yeah, so the reason that is, first of all, that idea has had no resonance. I mean, if anyone, of Hamas, who's the most Islamist of the Islamists, has gotten nobody to rally around them in any meaningful sense, and using that line. Secondly, it is certainly true that the Iranians have been successful in using, when available, Sunni proxies. In addition to just Shia proxies, they've been successful. For instance, Hamas. So they've been, and Islamic Jihad. They've been successful with that where they've been able to. So that they're very clever with. But I don't think that. I think, first of all, the evidence thus far in the war leading up to this point is that just doesn't have any resonance. People understand that this is a political fight. This is not Israel attacking Islam. And then secondly, I think that's also defanged a little bit by the existence of the Abraham Accords, by the existence of these Sunni governments normalizing relationships with Israel. And even the Lebanese government, which again, remember, you're talking about a country that has a large Sunni population there. It's still about 33% each way, something like that, between Christians, Sunnis, and Shia. And so there's no sense that this is an attack on the religion. This is an attack on the regime. And again, remember, they've been very careful. They're attacking government and military outposts. They're not just sort of carpet bombing the place, and that's tremendously important.
Joshua Sharf with the Independence Institute. We're talking Iran, Israel, America. A few more questions. How do you think the United States is going to get pulled into this? Quickly, Rubio was out with a statement last night saying, we didn't have anything to do with this. Give us what you think is happening behind the scenes there.
Well, I think it's clear if you go back and sort of look at what's happened over the last 2 months since Trump issued his ultimatum. It's clear that the U.S. knew about what was going to happen. And I suspect that CENTCOM is helping Israel track if and when there's Iranian outgoing. I suspect that CENTCOM will help Israel track and coordinate the response to that. But I don't think the U.S. has any interest in getting directly involved in this, unless, if Iran tries by, hitting U.S. bases there. I suppose that's a possibility. But my sense is that right now we don't know, what Iran is going to try and do in response. They'll do something. I suspect that soft targets overseas, say in Europe and the United States, are probably more at risk, and because they may be less likely to have some deniability, and they may be less likely to provoke an immediate military response. I just don't think the U.S. is going to get directly involved militarily here, but I do think that Trump and part of this, the political misdirection on this, was also a key part of the operation. Where the U.S. was, allegedly continuing to restrain Israel. Don't do this. We don't want to do this yet. We're going to go back to talks. It's still a threat that's sitting out there. But they knew exactly what was coming, and there's no question that the U.S. blessed this operation.
That's Joshua Sharf, Independence Institute. Final question for you, sir. How are your friends, colleagues, family members in Israel preparing this weekend? What have you heard from them? I know living in the constant threat of an attack is part of living in Israel, but what are you hearing from your contacts over in Israel as to how they're preparing for what may be a response?
Well, they're paying attention. I think that there had been, at least in Jerusalem, which has been generally not a target of attacks, there had been a sense of some relaxation, I think, in terms of the sirens, that these attacks were generally directed at other parts of the country. I think that's gone. They're going to be paying very close attention. The warning right now is to not have public gatherings for the Sabbath. Instead of praying at synagogue, people will be praying in private homes. They might be meeting in each other's apartments and so forth to pray rather than going to synagogues. I think there's a sense that something is coming, but I think right now people are kind of holding their breath on that because so far there hasn't been anything. So I think there's a sense that luck can't hold, but I think right now people are, as with any military operation, when something starts like this, you're sort of holding your breath, pleased at how things have gone, and understanding that, like I say, the bad guys always have tricks up their sleeves.
Joshua Sharp, Senior Fellow with the Independence Institute. Thank you so much for taking time to join the Jeff and Bill Show. I know you got something else you're working on as well. Give us a sense of an update on a project you got.
Yeah, so there's something over at Substack. In a better country, in a better situated country, if you will, sort of a better sense of itself, we would be gearing up nationally we would have started back on either the 250th anniversary of the Tea Party or the 250th anniversary a couple of months ago of Lexington and Concord to build up to the 250th anniversary of independence. So far, that's been kind of muted, and we haven't really gotten our act together on that. So, it comes to us to do stuff like that. And when I say us, I mean individuals. And so I've got a Substack. It's independence250.substack.com, independence250.substack.com. That's modeled on the old CBS bicentennial minutes, for those of us who are old enough to remember that from 50 years ago. And every day, 250 years ago today, here's what was happening. It's not very long, usually. Might be up to about 500 words, but usually just a few hundred words, about what was going on in the revolution at that time. And the idea is to carry that all the way through to July 4th, 2026.
I love that. That is very, very cool. Awesome. I just became a subscriber. So independence250.substack.com. Joshua Sharf, Independence Institute, thank you for taking time to join the Jeff and Bill Show.
Yeah, thanks a lot, my friend.
Thank you for having me on.
And continue to pray for the peace of Jerusalem, as the Bible asks us to do. All right, let's talk Black Eyed Pea, guys. You're looking for a great place to eat this weekend. I love this restaurant, locally owned and operated by Stephen Michelle. My entire family enjoys eating there. My parents find something they love. We do, and the kids. That's not very common among restaurants where all three generations love it. Black Eyed Pea of Colorado, homestyle cooking at its best. They got 8 locations. There's sure to be one near you. Bottom line, take your family out to eat at the Black Eyed Pea. Go online at blackeyedpeacolorado.com and check out their featured menu that they run through different seasons in Colorado. They've got special barbecue, burgers, potato menus, and more. They've built a reputation in Colorado for the best home-cooked meal away from home. It's locally sourced. It's Maha. It's what I love. It's the Black Eyed Pea of Colorado. They do catering. If it's a dinner party, rehearsal dinner, wedding reception, or company event, make it a success with Black Eyed Pea Catering. And no matter what the occasion, Black Eyed Pea gift cards are always great for your special someone, birthday favors, or holiday presents. They have you covered. I love everything about this restaurant. I know you will too. Support local like I do and keep it in Colorado. Visit the Black Eyed Pea near you. We'll continue with phone calls and texts. We're talking Iran, Israel, and America. What's next? You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. It's going to be 89 today, 92 tomorrow, 94 on Sunday. Take Dad to the pool. Enjoy Father's Day. It's going to be hot out there. Now, if you have air conditioning problems, I feel your pain. I was there last summer. Our AC busted up. The line froze up. Oh, it wasn't good. Went out there, had a lot of different HVAC companies come by our house and speak with us and show us different options. We chose L&L Heating and Air Conditioning, and we are thrilled. One-day installation, no stress, personal service from start to finish. They followed up to make sure everything was perfect. They absolutely nailed it. Our family, comfortable no matter what the weather. With L&L Heating and Air Conditioning, we got peace of mind. Here's the deals they're offering right now. A free programmable thermostat or carbon monoxide detector with new furnace or air conditioner installation. I can adjust my furnace house temperature right on my own phone. It's great. No emergency charges. They're not going to nickel and dime you. $0 trip fee. Price match value guaranteed on equipment. Free estimates, licensed and insured, and a 5-year labor warranty. Everything works great. Our family couldn't be happier. So if you're looking for fast, honest, reliable service, check out L&L Heating and Air Conditioning. Here's their phone number, 720-851-1691. Online at bestdenverhvac.com, bestdenverhvac.com. I'm sure glad we called him. That number again, 720-851-1691. All right, we're talking Iran, Israel, United States, and the response. Let's go to the phone lines. Matt, Denver. Good morning, Matt. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Yeah, good morning.
Gentlemen, boy, things just got hot pretty quick, didn't they? And I guess I would ask a pause for the Christian and the MAGA American. Is this what you signed up for? Because we ran on a president of America first. I fail to see the American interest at hand right now. That's number one. Number two, this is a no-war president, and now we have sort of conflicting statements that here's Israel taking a surprise shot at Iran, and then if there's any retaliation for that surprise attack, Iran gets decimated, and now we're all in. So I think I'd ask the Christian American, the Christian MAGA member, to step back and see, is Israel truly our greatest ally? Are they really in lockstep with us? And I'd ask a lot of these Christians listening, have you ever heard of what a Christian is treated like in Jerusalem or Tel Aviv or anything like that? If you dare mention Christ as king in those countries, but yet we're going to send young children 18 and up to go fight 7,000 miles away. I fail to see the America first, and so it's like worst nightmare come true. We're living it, and we're only,
Matt,
6 months in?
Do you see the U.S. having to respond? So I bring this up because Iran not complying with the nuclear safeguards. There was a vote at the IAC yesterday or 2 days ago, first time in 20 years that I think this vote against a country was brought at the IAC. That's the International Atomic, or IAEA, sorry, International Atomic Energy Agency. And U.S. didn't respond. Israel responded. Israel so far not asking for American boots on the ground. Do you think this was maybe a proportionate or strategic strike in order to keep Iran from getting nuclear weapons?
I would argue, and by the way, Israel doesn't comply with nuclear standards at all. We have no idea if they have 50 nuclear bombs or 500. They won't comply. I guess what I'm putting out there on the table, are we all to be on our knees worshiping Bibi because he just saved the world? Because this idea that little tiny Iran can take one nuclear bomb and take over the world, when you're talking about China, Russia, United States, Europe, the collective, I mean, that's the idea that they sell on Fox News to our boomers that then come out and say, I stand with Israel. It's like, you have no idea what you're talking about when it comes to the instigation.
Hey, Matt, I want to change this on you for a sec. Now, I understand where you're going with this based on the idea of Iran using the nuclear weapons as an offensive capability. But I believe that what Israel's looking at is that this as a defensive capability, that nuclear weapons in this day and age are defensive. And if Iran gets a hold of a nuclear weapon, it fundamentally changes Israel and everybody else's ability to enact regime change or anything else. I mean, basically, Iran gets to still support the Hamas, still gets to support Hezbollah, still gets to be an agitator in the Middle East, and has that shield of being a nuclear power, which changes the idea of invasion. I mean, we don't invade other nuclear nations. The U.S. doesn't do it, and that's pretty much a safety card. That's why North Korea wants to be a nuclear nation so badly, because they know that ends up being a mutually assured destruction card that you put on the table. So does this, rather than you saying we're afraid of Iran using it as an attack, does this actually encourage Iran to become a nuclear power simply because they become then a no-hands zone? We can't touch them because of the mutually assured destruction. Does this actually encourage them to become nuclear, and is it not offensive but defensive?
Well, I think it's insane to think that Israel has the right to dictate any nuclear possession of any country. I just am not aware of where that standard got set. But putting that aside, when you look at if Iran was left alone and not instigated, and we always have our fat ass in the region instigating. You guys know about these pre-planned invasions and wars that the CIA and the Defense Department wants to take on. And when I hear words like regime change, we need to be out of the business of regime change. I don't want to hear how we go into Iraq and we're going to free all these poor Iraqis and we're going to introduce democracy. It resulted in 1 million dead Iraqi, thousands of dead servicemen, $2 trillion in 20 years, and it's more unstable today than it's ever been. So really, this is a step back moment. We want to be a complete isolationist country. The affairs of the world we'll get to, but guess what? We've got 2 million children in poverty. We've got black culture in absolute rot. Try walking into a third world country and an American ghetto. You won't know the difference. When those things become addressed, then I want to talk about all the little things going on in a region in which we have absolutely no ability to change. These are thousands of years old. These are demonic and spiritual forces that are over those countries. But until we clean up our own house, because it's flooding and burning and we're going into all kinds of terrible directions, we don't have the resources or ability. It is so arrogant to suggest we're going to go introduce these policies 6,000 miles away when we've got children they won't eat this week. And we've got black culture. How many dead black teens will we find in Washington, D.C. and Chicago? And then we're worried about the poor Israeli 6,000 miles away. We've got priorities completely reversed, gentlemen.
All right, Matt. From Denver, Matt's line will be open, 303-696-1971, if you want to join the conversation. All right, let's talk Dan Caplis and Dan Caplis Law. I've known Dan for well over a decade, pro-life, pro-family, pro-faith, pro-America. This guy's right with us on the values, gets it. And if you're involved in an injury case, well, you need somebody that shares your values. It's going to send a message to everybody involved in the case, the type of person that you are. Dan, a sterling 40-year career in Colorado helping people who are hurt in serious motor vehicle crashes. Listen to his record in the courtroom. Dan is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado history. Dan Caplis Law is so trusted, he's the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. Dan Caplis Law is a serious firm for serious cases. Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. So if you need Dan's help, give him a call. Here's the phone number, 303-770-5551. 303-770-5551 or hit dancaplisLaw.com. That's Dan, CAPLIS Law.com. What do you think of what Matt had to say? We got all these other problems in America. We don't need to be involved in the Middle East again. But is Iran willing to let America just run? Remember they referred to Israel as the little Satan. America is the big Satan. They want to wipe us off the face of the earth. So, is it okay if they have a nuclear weapon? Give us a call. The phone number here, 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Campos Law text line at 720-819-5115. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.